Sipping this most unsatisfactory coffee here in beautiful La Perouse in Sydney, I'm going to talk about the Kia EV6. By now you've been flooded with information on Kia's EV6. All of its figures are huge, except for the 0 to 100 time, which is just 3.5 seconds. Now, to go much faster than that, you're going to have to spend many more shekels than the just under 100,000 that this car costs. With on-roads, it's just over 112,000. It's a lot of money, but if you want to go, let's say 0.1 of a second faster, you're going to need to spend $396,000 on a Mercedes-AMG SL. The EV6 GT gets a few things that the other models don't get. This one has matrix lights, and I took them for a spin last night. They work really well. It also has a massive amount of power that the other ones don't have. In fact, this has 80% more power than the next most powerful EV6. It is 430 kilowatts and 730 newton meters, generated from a 160 kilowatt front motor and a 270 kilowatt rear motor. It's got an electric automatic tailgate, so if you stand there with the key long enough, it goes up. I'm not going to go into all that stuff because I went into it with the other EV6 videos, and I'll put links to the videos and all the other EV6 stories in the description below. But you'll need to go to the written review to find out all that information. I also want to talk about battery technology. This has a 77.1 or 0.4, can't remember. That's made up of a lot of individual cells, a little bit bigger than a AA battery. And they're all bound together in a box. And there's 10 or 12 of those boxes in the underfloor compartment. And if you want to see what a battery looks like when it comes away, have a look at this Audi e-tron in an accident. Over it goes, and whoa, there goes the battery. And in batteries, there's the very high likelihood that something horrible will happen, as with charging e-bikes or whatever, or even e-cigarettes. The battery can overheat, and it's the electrolyte, it's the liquid inside that actually gets hot, and also is what limits the charging on these cars. This is limited to 350 kilowatts. Only the Hyundai group and Porsche, I think, can charge at 350. Everybody else is. Mini, I think, is 100 or even 50, and it takes an age. To get from 10 to 80 in this car, about 18 minutes. Now, I spoke to a bloke, an associate professor at the University of New South Wales, who's done some work into solid-state batteries. We're talking solid-state batteries. That's why we've got an EV with us, with Niraj Sharma, associate professor at University of New South Wales.
One of the key findings was that the volume doesn't change very much. So if you imagine a battery in your car, you often have a little bit of a volume expansion and contraction as you charge and discharge.
Yep.
This happens, and
that's what shortens the life of the battery, right?
One part of it, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, it's often a cascade of different things that happen, and that's an active area of research too. But essentially, your battery has cells, and each cell has components, and each of them sort of expand and contract. And what we've found is a substance that actually doesn't do that. Found that these batteries also degrade. There's chemical reactions that happen on the surface.
Absolutely.
And over time, they do degrade.
One of the biggest problems.
Exactly. And if you can solve that, fantastic, right? Everlasting battery, beautiful. The ideal battery will not degrade. And part of that is all the components. And so if all the components are stable and they don't change over time, as you're charging and discharging, right? So you're doing chemical reactions, and you don't want them to change. That's an ideal battery. But
your test units?
So our test units in the solid-state batteries that we've developed, they seem to be really good, doing really well. I should say. Excuse me for that.
By doing really well, you mean?
They're very stable.
I asked him how long they would last, and he said, "Well, I'm a scientist. I'm a pragmatist as well. It'll last however long it lasts." And I said, "Well, it lasts longer than a conventional battery, a conventional solid-state battery." And he said, "Yes, much." Could it last the life of the car? They said it could well do. That could change humankind forever. First of all, I want to point out just a couple of little things about the Kia control system. Unlike its Hyundai counterpart, this one has a two-function touch control system here along the bottom. So you get two 12.3-inch screens, both digital, and a lovely big wide head-up display, which is about here. The good thing about this is that it has automatic cutoff for tunnels, which I really like, and the auto climate control. You can set the fan on any of 3 speeds. So I've got this up on its maximum auto speed at the moment. Battery is down to about 23%. So I am heading straight back to the headquarters at the moment. They've done a couple of things to the EV6 though. It's not quite as the normal ones are. You still get the little twirl dial for your gears, and you still get the door handles that have now popped in. But you get 21-inch wheels. And it hasn't done much for the ride, let me tell you. It's also got semi-active suspension. It's made the handling surgical, but boy, has it made the ride hard. Australian streets have speed bumps. We're coming up to one now. Crikey. And this isn't a particularly well-kept road, and you can feel absolutely every single bump. The Korean cars are still relatively expensive. Even the cheapest Kia Pure EV is 65,000 or something along those lines. The Chinese are bringing them in at just above 40,000 because the Chinese can. Remember, currently half of the price of a car, roughly, of an EV is battery. Again, that's where the solid state batteries would make such a massive difference. There's a strange harmonic in the wheels. It's kind of this low-pitched rumble. It's rather unpleasant. The acceleration is extraordinary, but 3.5 seconds to 100 feels a little bit like being hit in the head. And the other thing is, you could feel me jerk forward. The car goes gay lime. The dash is all limey, and that's because green is the new red. Oh, gosh, those potholes on this thing are, they're really unpleasant. And importantly, I've done 312 kilometers on this one charge, and I've still got 20% of my battery left. That is remarkable. Let's get around here. Now this annoys me. I've got my indicator on, and it thinks that I'm changing lanes onto the truck next door. Of course, this has the Kia safety and driver aids. It's got lane centering and lane departure, and all of that's active. The steering is very, very good. And unlike some brands, this one you can activate separately. You can have it going even when the cruise control isn't working. The cruise control is smart cruise control. Keeps you a set distance from the car in front and pulls up when the car pulls up. And as I creep around these quiet back streets, you got to realize how adept this thing is at city work. The wheelbase is almost as long as Hyundai's Palisade, so almost as long as the 7-seater SUV, which means that there's a bunch of space. So to wrap up, EV6 does exactly what it says on the book. It is incredibly fast. It has a drift mode. It can charge fast. It has excellent range, great battery storage. The only things I would criticize is the ride is very hard. I don't know why they don't just put in some fully adjustable dampers and have the soft ones really, really soft. The car is handsome, has a good pedigree, is reliable, and unlike some of its fossil fuel counterparts, doesn't make a hash out of being green. This car's green because it is actually green. That's all this week from Kia EV6. Hit like, leave a comment, and just over there to subscribe.